Test.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. My name is David Colby, and I'll be the moderator for the event this evening. This mayoral debate is sponsored by the Register-Star and Columbia County Chamber of Commerce. Both candidates have agreed to a League of Women Voters format where they will each have a 3-minute opening statement, they will have a 3-minute closing statement, and they will have 2 minutes each to answer questions throughout the program. The forum will last for 1 hour this evening. We ask the audience to put your questions on 3x5 cards which are available at the back of the room. And when you have a question that you would like to submit, please hold it up. We have 3 volunteers that are going to be collecting questions. Ladies, could you raise your hand? All 3, right in the back. Just, when you have a question, you can hold it up. And we do have cards and we have pens at the back table over there. They will bring the 3x5 cards up here to Mary Dempsey. Mary is the executive editor of the Register-Star and the Columbia Green Media Publications. She will look at the questions. They need to be questions that can be answered by both candidates and answered in a 2-minute time frame. I ask the audience not to clap, to stomp your feet, or to boo at this forum here tonight. We ask you to please be respectful. We don't want to have to ask anyone to leave. We will ask for a round of applause at the beginning of the program. We will ask for a round of applause at the end of the program. We ask you to please refrain from applause during the program so we can get through this in a timely manner. So please help me in welcoming our 2 candidates for Mayor of Hudson, Bill Hallenbeck and Tiffany Martin Hamilton. We will start with opening remarks. We drew cards at the beginning, and Bill drew number 1, so you will start the program.
Thank you. I want to welcome everyone for being here for the debate this evening. I wanted to say hello to my family, my wife Pam, my children, my mother who's here this evening. Last time I had a debate with Nick Dad, my father was here. He's no longer with us, but I know he's here in spirit, and I want to thank all of you and my opponent, Tiffany Hamilton, for being here. In 2012, the outcry of the city of Hudson was to keep taxes down. I've had a 0% tax increase, less than 1%, and a 1.2% increase. Revenue and fund balance has increased over $1 million. We changed our services by hiring competent commissioners and department heads to better serve the residents of the city of Hudson. We took it upon ourselves, even with low taxes and an increase in our fund balance and our revenue. We took it upon ourselves to be able to purchase an $880,000 fire truck. We purchased 2 new police cars, 2 new international dump trucks, a new street cleaner at 0 financing. I've had an open door policy here in the city of Hudson, helping some businesses who have come to me to work their way through some boards that we have, the planning board, the zoning board, and at times the Historical Preservation Commission, as well as residents who have called me at any hour of the day, to which I've even also made home visits to deal with their concerns. The bottom line is 3.5 years ago, we were where we were. And today we're on the map. And anybody in this room who hasn't seen that has not been paying attention to Hudson. We are nationally recognized. We have people from all over the world who want to come to the city of Hudson. And they do. They come here during the week. They come here on the weekends. We are Hudson, and I'm proud of my record. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming here tonight. No. 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 That's what we've heard for the last 3 years and 10 months. No. The residents of Hudson have been told no. We have created a culture of no. And frankly, it's time for that to change. We're in an environment where we are governed by an old boys network. There are few people that benefit from that old boys network tie-in, while the rest of us are left to make it on our own and struggle. At some point, that has to change, and I would say that that time is now. I wanted to share with all of you that last year, I understand struggle. I actually filed for personal bankruptcy last year. It was a very difficult time. It was a deliberate move on my part. We worked incredibly hard and came to the decision that was going to be best for our family and to ensure our financial stability going forward. Similarly, Hudson is facing very, very dire circumstances. We have large capital expenditures that are looming. Not $1 million expenditures, not $800,000 expenditures, multi-million dollars, tens of millions of dollars. Things that we haven't planned for, things that we haven't even begun to discuss solutions to. Those are all looming, and things that we really need to start taking a look at. I understand personal struggles. I understand struggles as corporate struggles. I understand all of it. And what I'd like to see happen is for us to roll up our sleeves, to work together as a community, to harness the collective talents and energies that we have in Hudson. And we have a tremendous number of brilliant people who are willing to get involved and ready to be involved. They just need to be welcomed. Once they're welcomed, that opens up the doors and helps us really focus on developing the future of Hudson, the future that we're all comfortable with.
15 seconds.
Thank you.
Dave, is there a minute rebuttal?
No, there's not.
There's not.
We're now going to questions from the audience, which we'll have 2 minutes to answer, and starting with Tiffany. Many unemployed and underemployed residents live far from jobs, schools, and shopping opportunities. The current bus system does not meet their needs. How can the city improve the bus system?
It's an interesting question and something that has certainly come up a lot in my discussions with residents. We have a bus that runs during the day. It runs unlimited hours. It stops at 3 o'clock. If you need to go to the grocery store after work and you live in Hudson and you need to get to Greenport, there's no way to get there. So this is absolutely an issue. If you need to get to Columbia Green, you can't get there. That's an issue. What we have done, or I have done, to address at least part of that as a private citizen was in co-founding Hudson Forward. One of our initiatives was to create a rideshare program. Now, if you need to get to Columbia Green, you're able to go online, get connected with a driver, be taken to Columbia Green, and be picked up when your classes are done. We recognized that there was a void. There was a void, and we filled it. Similarly, I would work to do the same for Hudson by collaborating with the county to expand bus service so that people do have reliable service, not only to Columbia Green, but also out to Greenport so that they are able to access the grocery stores and other stores and services that they need access to.
My response? Ready?
Your answer to the
Okay.
question, yes, sir.
Do we remember the minibus? I know I do. I'm sure you do. I wish the minibus was still here. It at least transported everyone in the city to Greenport and throughout the city in different locations. There came a time when the minibus cost the city $195,000 in loss every single year because there wasn't enough people using the bus. We charged $1 for the bus, but I believe a bus is necessary. So the county decided that they would fund the bus that we have now, Cooksaki Transport, And that bus would pick up our residents and bring them to where they need to go in the town of Greenport. Now, the city of Hudson is between 2.5 and 2.7 square miles. Greenport surrounds us. While I think the services on those buses could be better for our residents, as far as allowing individuals who may be handicapped being placed on that bus, because I've had some arguments and some issues that have come to my office in regards to that. I have forwarded those individuals to those responsible on the county level. I've met with the president of the college to provide a bus for anyone who wants to go to the college here in the city of Hudson. They did that before. And when they did that, they said it wasn't cost effective because of the fact that when they went to the spots where they were supposed to pick up individuals, they weren't there. Or they had begun carpooling to the college. So
15 seconds.
my answer would be that we've had discussion about looking into the prices of buses that run on solar. There's communities using them, and we are checking into the cost of maybe providing a similar minibus
That is time.
runs on solar. Thank you.
Next question, starting with Bill. Define affordable housing and explain your plan to provide more in Hudson.
I think the city of Hudson has done their due diligence with affordable housing over the years. We have affordable housing at Bliss Towers, dating back to the urban renewal days, Hudson Terrace Apartments, Bliss Towers, low-rise Schuyler Court, and Crosswinds. I also believe that we need more, and more can be done with affordable housing, but here's the issue. We need three things for affordable housing. First thing we need is a community that supports affordable housing, and elected officials that support it. People are going to support having affordable housing here. The next thing are developers. We need developers that are going to come here and buy buildings that they used to be able to buy for $100,000 5 years ago that now cost $500,000, and then they put $1.2 million in those buildings. They need the third thing, which are incentives. Tax incentives, pilots, or some relief so that they can provide affordable housing. If they don't get that, we can't expect individuals who buy these properties and put $2.5 million into these to be able to charge the $600 and $700 affordable rents in a city that has 940 square foot apartments right now, one-bedroom apartments, going for $1,300, and two-bedroom 940 square foot apartments going for $3,000 a month. Thank you.
Affordable housing is something that impacts a great number of us. And it speaks to a larger issue in Hudson. There's a lot of talk about the effects of gentrification. And gentrification, as we all know, is a natural byproduct of the growth and the influx that Hudson's seen over the last 20 years. There's a way to balance it. What the mayor has proposed and continues to support is keeping all affordable housing clustered. We talk about Bliss Towers, we talk about Schuyler Court, we talk about the terrace apartments. To me, I hear, let's keep all of the economically disadvantaged people in one place. It sounds an awful lot like projects. And I believe that we all know that that is not a successful model. What we need to do is explore options that will disperse affordable housing throughout the city. And while it may be difficult, and it may take some time to work with developers to figure out what incentives will work for them, other cities do it. We're able to do it by simply saying, we can't do it, and everyone needs to stay in one neighborhood, is not sufficient, and it's not acceptable. And if you're someone who's struggling, don't you feel that you have the right to live in whatever neighborhood you'd like to live in? Is there any particular reason that we all need to be in one place? It's a much larger issue and something that we need to look at citywide. Thank you.
Next question, starting with Tiffany. What is one item on your list of priorities that you will achieve within the first 100 days of your swearing in? Tell us specifically how you will accomplish it.
In my first 100 days in office, I will work with every department to get a better understanding of the capital projects that we know are coming. Let's get a better understanding of sidewalks and what it would look like to redo those sidewalks. Let's get a better understanding of the Ferry Street Bridge and really get our arms around how much that will cost and how we'll make it happen. Let's get a better understanding of our deteriorating roads and what we can potentially do to divert traffic to stop that deterioration. Once we understand all of these projects, then we can start to model and figure out how much it will cost, how much it costs each taxpayer, how it will be paid for, and we can begin to prioritize projects. So my first 100 days in office would be spent not just doing ramp up, because clearly it's a big job and there is a lot of ramp up, but would be getting my arms around the capital projects and starting the process of planning for those projects over the next 5 years.
Well, there's a lot that we're going to continue to do. The first thing is keeping taxes where I've kept them over 3.5 years. The other thing is to continue to increase the revenue that we've increased. We have a fund equity account that in 2012, unrestricted and restricted equity account, we had $887,000 in that account. Today, 2015, we have over $3 million in unrestricted funds, and if some of you don't know what unrestricted versus restricted is, we have over $3 million that we can use for any project. But more importantly, I think the priority for this administration moving forward is the Ferry Street Bridge. In 1904, the Ferry Street Bridge was built by the New York Central Railroad, and it has become run down and is no longer being used because of that fact. But we didn't know who owned the bridge up to a month and a half ago. And when we found out who owned the bridge, I asked for federal, state, and federal funding for the bridge to replace it because it's the gateway to our waterfront. And not only that, we've maintained a state boat launch because it's owned by New York State for over 4 decades with our police and DPW, and we've spent salaries to do that. And I think now it's time for the state to jump on board, help us and assist us financially with replacing a bridge, which is the gateway to our waterfront and to a state-owned boat club. Thank you.
Next question, starting with Bill. Do you support a community review board for the police department? And what will you do to empower the community to be involved in justice issues?
Well, one of the things we did was to change the police department. And we changed the culture of the police department by changing the individuals, the figureheads who were there, namely Chief Moore, who came in as chief, to better serve the community and to bring back that community policing atmosphere that the city of Hudson hadn't had in many years. One of the things, coming from a law enforcement background of 22 years, I know that I put people in position, like the Commissioner Graziano, and the chief, to hear all the needs of the city of Hudson, ward by ward by ward. And if anybody lives in the city of Hudson, you know that Chief Moore has availed his time, his precious time, by the way, because crime has reduced across the board in 3.5 years. He's availed his time to anybody that wants to ask him any questions they want to ask. And he's done it at his office, and he's done it in the public, going ward to ward to ward in these community sessions, if you will, where he's answered any questions that anybody has with the police department. In regards to a community review board, I'd have to look into exactly what makeup of that board it was, what the details of, and the responsibilities of that board, what that would entail, and what the makeup of that board would be. You know, I think it is a great step and another step to be able to bridge any gap that may exist
15
between
seconds.
any community member and the police department. We always like having conversations with the public, as does the chief, about the police department. We can do it at roundtable, or we can do it in our offices daily.
A community review board. Right now, there is a police committee. It's a subcommittee as part of the common council. And I know that's something that Tom DiPietro has suggested, if he were to come into office as common council president, would be to include community members on those committees. That would be a good start. Right now, community members don't have enough opportunities to participate in review, in these processes, in defining policy. That's occurring in a vacuum. I commend Chief Moore. I agree with my opponent. Chief Moore has done a fantastic job, and he's done wonders with reaching out to the community. In terms of characterizing it as precious time, that precious time is our time. That's time that we pay for with our tax dollars. So while that time is at a premium, we're entitled to that time, every single one of us. So it's not a privilege. It's actually our right to tap into that. I think a community review board would be very valuable. There are many people in this community, countless people that I talk to, that feel that they don't have a voice and that they are consistently disrespected and ignored. Having that review board would open up that dialogue. This is an important relationship. The relationship our police department has to our community is so valuable, and it's a delicate balance. And it's one that I know Chief Moore has worked very hard. He's
15
made
seconds.
great strides, but certainly a community review board would be an excellent, excellent start to rebuilding and building a stronger relationship between the community and the police department.
Next question, starting with Tiffany. What is your vision for the youth of our city? Please be specific. What are your plans for the youth department?
My plans for the youth department. I would like to see, well, not even like to see, in office, I will see a youth department director. Someone that has deep experience, not only in interacting with youth, but in programming for youth. The mayor last week in our radio debate mentioned that we had more children that participated in the program this summer at Oakdale than ever before. And that's wonderful. I also know that's because there were people that went out into the community and specifically sought those children and signed them up for those programs. The key position is the director's position. I also see the department structured so that there would be a supervisor or a youth liaison who would work directly with the youth in Hudson. Right now, we're running really without anyone at the helm. We have someone who's been temporarily appointed. He's not appointed as the director. He's been appointed as a supervisor. He has gone through numerous temporary appointments with no closure. It's an incredibly important role, as it would be to have a director for the senior center and have senior center programming. While they're very different, we're talking in the same vein. So specifically for the youth, I would see that department properly structured, have very, very rich programming, and see that programming consistently rolled out into the community.
15 seconds.
And youth encouraged and brought in, because they're everything to us. They're Hudson 20 years from now. They're us.
Our youth is undoubtedly our future. Not only since I've been here, since mayors before probably any of us got here, we have served our youth valiantly. The director position that my opponent speaks of was administrative. It wasn't directly involved with the youth and program. Primarily, it was administrative, and it cost the city $60,000 to have an administrator doing bills, looking for grants, etc., when the city has a grant writer that we pay to do that. The recreational supervisor, however, is the person that works directly with the youth, and for 30 years, it was George Bednar. And I think a lot of you may know that George retired recently, and he retired on the crest of the summer youth department summer program at Oakdale starting. So it was a feeling that we needed somebody in there that has worked with the youth for over 10 years now, and also supervised those youth during his time, and that was Tyrone Hedgepeth. And that is the reason why he was appointed to a temporary position of 3 months. Because if you don't know that the recreational supervisor is a civil service position, you should. You have to take a test for that position. But there was no test given by civil service. I asked for a test of civil service to be given for recreational supervisor in June of last year. They have yet to call for a civil service
15
test
seconds.
for recreational supervisor. Tyrone was appointed temporary for 3 months, and then another 3 months, and he will now be provisional pending the civil service test he has to take, to which he has to score in the top 3.
That is time.
Thank you.
Next question from the audience, starting with Bill. The business community is responsible for Hudson's popularity. What will your administration do for the businesses in our community to help them to continue to succeed?
I can't argue with you a little about the substance. The driving engine of the city of Hudson is our business district and small businesses. Not only in the city of Hudson, but Columbia County. We've gone from an industrial revolution to small businesses who have contributed to what we see here in the city of Hudson. I can only say that as mayor, as an executive of this city, I've tried to work with many and have worked with many businesses on Warren Street to help them through the process again of coming here, starting their business, going through the planning, the zoning commission, and the historical preservation commission. But you're right, it is what drives, it's the driving force of the city of Hudson. We make sure that we do as much as we can to keep the streets clean. We do as much as we can with quality of life issues, regardless of whether it's our DPW or it's our police department for the business. But at the end of the day, I agree that business in the city of Hudson is thriving. 28 businesses opened in 2014 here in the city of Hudson. And I'm proud that as the Chief Executive Officer of the city of Hudson, we continue to look for more businesses to come here. What I'd like to ask of the businesses though, because I don't know the numbers, but I'd like to see our local small businesses look to hiring individuals that live in the city of Hudson first, because we do that on a city level. We try to hire people that live in the city of Hudson, and I know there's some that work in these businesses, but I would call on the businesses to start looking at our residents
That is time.
as hires. Thank you.
So I find the mayor's comments about this particular subject very interesting, and I'll tell you why. A couple of weeks ago, I hosted a business roundtable here in Hudson. And 35 business owners came out to talk about the issues that affect them, what their suggestions are, where they see things going. And the first thing I did was I looked around the table and I said, who among you has had a visit from the mayor in this term? Not one person around the table raised a hand. not one person. That's concerning to me. Businesses, this is indeed, this is a renaissance that we're seeing, but it's on the backs of people who are working incredibly hard to build their small businesses, to bring business to Hudson, to bring tourism to Hudson, to bring revenue to Hudson. What I would do as mayor would be to work together collaboratively with businesses. There are multiple existing business coalitions. It's a bit fractious. We need one single strong business coalition. City Hall meeting with that business coalition every month or every 2 months as a temperature check, a sanity check. How are things going? What can the city do to better support you and make your business successful?
15 seconds.
The city can also work to market those businesses, work more collaboratively with the website and in other ways to market that business so that all of our businesses can be successful and we can generate more revenue for our city.
Next question, starting with Tiffany. Would you consider shared contracts for the city? For example, citywide sidewalk repair, citywide trash services.
Citywide what?
Citywide sidewalk repair is something that we discussed on the radio last week. And it's something that, interestingly, John Friedman brought up a couple of years back about how potentially we could, as a city, collectively do one single contract where all of the sidewalks throughout the city could be done at once. That would ensure that the sidewalks were uniform, that everyone met ADA requirements. There were some tax issues with that. As it turns out, you can't add another fee to the taxes right now. However, we can arguably, potentially, create a fund. We can create a separate tax district. There are creative ways to get around this problem where people would be able to pay for sidewalks over a period of time. Right now, I know the little sidewalk in front of my house, $3,000 to replace it. Not a lot of people have $3,000 just hanging around in the couch cushions to shake out and fix their sidewalks. If we were to do this by pooling our buying power and doing one consolidated contract, that $3,000 could easily come down to $1,500, a lot more manageable. And if you're looking at putting that money in a fund and having it paid off over a series of years, it'd be a great thing. We can form a task force who can look at the sidewalk issue and really identify what the problems are and what citizens want to see happen, what businesses want to see happen. We've got these talents. Let's tap into them. Same for trash collection. Trash collection's been an issue since the landfill closed. We now would have to ship our trash outside of,
15
if
seconds.
it goes out of the state. Similarly, let's form a task force and look at what options may be to actually have trash removed from our homes again by the city rather than private companies.
That is time.
Sorry. Sidewalks are a big issue in the city of Hudson. They always have been, going back to when there were brick sidewalks laid. That was a huge debacle. But per our code, and I don't make the laws, nor does Tiffany. If she were the mayor, she works for the executive branch. The legislative branch of government makes the laws here in the city of Hudson. And in our code, it states that the owners of these buildings, residential or commercial, are responsible for the sidewalks. I will give credit where credit's due, and there was conversation that began with Alderman Friedman in reference to the tax incentive, to which I supported, because I do know that there are individuals where $3,500 to come up with changing your sidewalks is difficult. We have a lot of individuals who have done that here in the city of Hudson. However, we have people spending $500,000 to $600,000 on purchasing buildings and $1.5 million on renovating these buildings, I would suggest that the Common Council maybe look at, instead of looking at chicken laws and other laws, they look at laws, changing the law that's on the books that says that residents and/or commercial owners are responsible for their sidewalk. You look at TSL over on Columbia Street, the sidewalks they just put in, which are fantastic. I can't imagine what they cost. And I don't envy the fact that Linda and Claudia had to replace those sidewalks, but they did. And I'm sure it was expensive. And I can tell you this, that is not a law if it was changed and tweaked where something could be done by the legislative branch to change residential or commercial building owners responsible for their sidewalk. I would support it.
Next question, starting with Bill. What is your plan to alleviate safety concerns and infrastructure wear issues associated with the truck route?
Truck route. I have done a lot of things with trying to circumvent the truck route out of the city of Hudson. It is a state truck route. It's not a city truck route. When it was a truck route, we had truck traffic that needed to, a lot more truck traffic that we were probably even generating with the industrial times that we lived in then and the deliveries that these big trucks had to make in the city of Hudson, and they used the truck route. I think the truck route right now is nothing more than a thoroughfare. I think that people trying to get from point A in Greenport to point B, the Rip Van Winkle Bridge, find it convenient to be able to use the truck route, which causes in a 150-year, 200-year infrastructure a lot of issues. Not only pollution, but infrastructure issues, noise, etc. I went to Greenport, spoke to Supervisor John Perica. I spoke to the past supervisor of the Board of Supervisors of Cloverk to see if they would agree to circumvent the truck route out of the city of Hudson. And the answer was no. If they had said yes, we would have been able to do that quite easily. Maybe going out 23 to Spook Rock Road and then go out to, or go out to 9H and take that route. But they didn't cooperate for whatever reason. They just said no. There's been talk about this hyper law enforcement
15 seconds.
Project where, police officers just sit there and look for truckers and then write them for everything that they can. That's profiling. Truckers have a right to make a living like you and I.
That is time.
Thank you.
The trucks that are running through Hudson are crumbling our infrastructure. They go past my house. I feel them go past my house. I see the results of that in the foundation of my house as it crumbles. It's a problem. I see the trucks as they come around the corner at Park Place and Warren Street. We're not able to have a crosswalk sign in the crosswalk. And when we asked the question, why can't there be a sign there? The answer was, because the trucks knock the sign over. Now, if the trucks knock the sign over, what happens when you're in that crosswalk with your kids, with your dogs? We've had discussions, as I understand the mayor saying, with John Perica and with supervisors throughout the county. Was it one discussion? Was it two discussions? They said no. How much revenue are they gaining because these trucks drive over our streets and deliver goods to the big box stores in Greenport? I would argue that we can push harder. And there's been plenty of discussion in the community, a lot of concerned people, and task forces, and people that have come up with all sorts of creative solutions to trucks riding through Hudson. We can argue to truckers, wear and tear on the truck. It costs you more just to start and stop at the stoplights, at the stop signs. It's not convenient for them. It's just as inconvenient for them as
15
it
seconds.
is for us. Rather than convenience, let's worry about the safety of our citizens and about the infrastructure of our city and make it work.
Next question, starting with Tiffany. Vacant properties in disrepair are a public safety issue. How will you address landlords who will not repair or maintain their property, banks who don't act promptly and foreclose abandoned properties, and properties with unpaid taxes?
There are vacant properties in disrepair. There are quite a few of them. There are properties where work has started and stopped. A lot of empty buildings, which feeds back into our affordable housing question. All of these empty units, empty houses, but we have people that have to pay $3,000 a month for housing. Kind of seems to me like a supply and demand issue. We can tighten that up. If we're more vigilant in terms of code enforcement and more vigilant about fining property owners for letting their buildings sit empty, for letting their buildings fall into disrepair so that they're uninhabitable, I think that's a pretty strong incentive. These can't be little penalties. Little penalties to someone who spends $600,000 on a property, really, those don't have much of an impact. We need to be vigilant and let property owners know that we mean business. We want those properties fixed. We want those units back on the market. We need the housing. We're running out of housing. There's no need for it. We're already going to be looking at zoning and hopefully tweaking our zoning to provide more housing and provide more commercial spaces throughout the city. But we have this quite a large amount of empty spaces sitting there waiting for us to use. So let's be vigilant. Let's get code enforcement out there.
15 seconds.
Let's penalize property owners who aren't keeping up their end of the bargain.
Well, rather than penalize property owners, because I don't think anybody ever wants to do that, we are set up with a system of code enforcement. I hired Craig Hay, who I think has done a fantastic job, and I give him credit for how he's done it. I give Peter Worcester was the code enforcement officer, and it's a difficult job. Craig, 24/7, is looking at buildings that are in violation. Sometimes he writes appearance tickets, sometimes he works with owners who listen and heed his message that they have to do things because it's a violation of the Hudson City Code. It is the department of the Hudson City Code that deals with these buildings. One of the buildings that I've been dealing with him is at 4th and Warren Street. But it is the business of code enforcement to deal with those issues. When it comes to buildings not being on the tax rolls, there are 2,300 buildings in the city of Hudson. 245 of them are not on the tax rolls. We are at an 100% assessed valuation, by the way. And I give the assessor and guard who we used on our last assessments, give them credit for that. $585 million is the total assessed value of our properties. $385 million of those buildings are taxed. $190 million are not taxed. And you can't tax it. It's the Hudson.
15 seconds.
120,000 of the 190 is the Hudson Correctional Facility, the hospital, fireman's home, and that makes up 120,000 of the 190, and they are the biggest employers, not only in the city of Hudson with our
That is
residents,
time.
but Columbia County. Thank you.
Next question, starting with Bill. The city is pursuing alternative revenue sources. Do you support this? And what other alternative revenue sources would you propose to relieve property owners and tenants?
Well, we're always looking at ways to increase our revenue, which I think we've done over 3.5 years. We've done it in baby steps. I mean, we can't look 4 or 5 years down the road with financial plans such as what my opponent has said. We continue to create our revenue stream as we've increased our revenue balance and our fund balance over $1 million. As we've kept taxes down, our revenue has increased. Just for example, and we just talked about code enforcement, the building permits alone doubled last year. And because of the feeling of people who are coming here, who want to come here, who want to open business, who want to rebuild the city of Hudson, so to speak, we've been able to increase our revenue from streams such as that. I will support any other revenue considerations that will keep taxes down and that will allow us in the future to increase the funds we need to increase, to provide the things that I think all of you want to see in the future, and I think the city residents want to see, in the totality of what benefits everybody in the city of Hudson. Thank you.
It's an interesting response. And I think the first thing that I'd like to mention is that we can't look 4 to 5 years down the road to start thinking about where revenue might come from. I would argue to the contrary, we should be looking 4 to 5 years down the road to figure out where our revenue will be coming from. Will it be coming from tax dollars? Is that where you want the money to be coming from ever increasing tax bills? We have the waterfront sitting there waiting to be developed. Waiting. That is our future. It's the heartbeat of our city. It's where everything comes from for Hudson. I always say the river is from whence we came. Right now, it sits derelict and unused or industrial. Wouldn't it make more sense to get the Ferry Street Bridge fixed and get businesses down on the waterfront that will indeed bring revenue into the city? 4 to 5 years down the road, that's the plan. Get the bridge fixed, get the waterfront developed. There are some hurdles, certainly. We have the LWRP that was passed at the local level that has yet to be ratified at the state level. But there was all of this community input, very little of which made it into the final document. People have aspirations for the waterfront. We want to see that waterfront used, not disused, not underutilized.
15 seconds.
That's a source of revenue. That we should be focusing on that as our primary new source of revenue 5 years from now.
Starting with Tiffany, what are your plans to reduce crime in the city?
This ties back to the question about community policing, potentially having a community review board for the police department and for police activities. I'll say again, I commend the work that the police department does. They do a tremendous job. Chief Moore has been a great asset to the community. We need more community policing. What brings crime down? Opportunities. Opportunities for people. Job opportunities for people. Educational opportunities for people. That brings crime down. What brings crime down? Police officers out of their cars, walking around, building relationships with people in the community, building trust. That brings crime down. We have an us and them mentality, and we have some people in the city that benefit from perpetuating that mentality. If we break that down and start to rebuild that trust and realize that we're all one community, we're all here to work together to make Hudson a better Hudson. We'll all have each other's backs. You watch your neighbors. Your neighbors go away, keep an eye on their house. That's community. That's community policing, bringing us together as a community, providing more opportunities for people so they don't feel that they need to resort to crime, to violence, to theft.
Let me start by saying what I said when I opened. Crime is down across the board. Burglary, larceny, assaults, criminal mischief. I concur with my opponent in reference to stating that opportunity in the city of Hudson for everyone helps keeping crime down. But opportunity and ridding opportunity to commit a crime also keeps crime down. And that's what, with the appointment of Chief Moore and Gary Graziano, and every bike patrol officer we have now, practically the whole department is on bikes and not driving around in cars. That has also led to crime reduction. And I think a more open, friendlier, respectful government that you've had in 3.5 years. And I'll let the community members of every ward correct me if I'm wrong, keeps crime down. And the way the city of Hudson has transitioned to what we are today, not only under my leadership, but under those other elected officials that have been here, keeps crime down. So, results talk, and crime is down across the board. And anyone wishing to see the results of our hard work over 3.5 years and the percentages of what they're down can contact Chief Moore and myself and come to City Hall anytime they want to discuss any issues that they have in their wards. Or, better yet, you can go to your aldermen who represent you in each ward where individuals may feel that crime is up, or your elected supervisor for the county, and ask them about any issues that you're having that we can address.
This will be the final question before closing remarks. Starting with Bill. Gentrification is an issue facing Hudson. How do the candidates feel about this?
Well, gentrification is an issue. I'm not in favor of it. Some people will say, and I've had many conversations about gentrification being good for a community. I disagree. Well, I agree to disagree. I'm not in favor of gentrification, and people need places to live, and they need affordable places to live. We have affordable places, as I mentioned before. We need more. We can do more. We've got to go back to the trifecta, and we need a community that wants affordable housing. Gentrification, affordable housing. If you want affordable housing, we need a community and elected officials that are going to jump on board. And then we need developers who are going to see a vision, a business vision, to bring affordable housing here where they're not going to lose money. Because there's a lot of business people here that I see, and you wouldn't do it. We need a developer, we need a community that accepts more affordable housing so gentrification can stall at least, if not stop, to allow everyone to live in the city of Hudson. And then we need the legislative branch, state, federal officials to give some incentive to those people who are providing affordable housing at the tune of $2 to $3 million so that they can effectively charge lower rents and not have to pay astronomical amounts of taxes, and maybe there's pilot considerations that can be given. But they're going to want to see some kind of incentives. And then we will have more affordable housing. I wanted to sell 4th and State Street, the parking lot across from 610, 601. Correction, 401.
15 seconds.
For the purpose of providing affordable housing. I've had conversations with, alderwomen and aldermen about that, and the council, I believe, is still maybe considering it, and they should. Thank you.
Gentrification is a phenomenon. It's not something that you're for or against. It's something that simply happens as a result of changes in a community. The question more so is how we handle it as a city and as a community. What I'm hearing from the mayor is that we want affordable housing and that there are these 3 things that have to happen in order for that to occur. My question is, if we know what those 3 things are, why aren't they happening? If we're aware, if there's a workable plan to increase affordable housing in the city, and the mayor knows the formula for that, why isn't it happening? Clearly, something's missing. Something's broken. Yes, we can have more affordable housing in the city. Yes, we can come together as a community. Yes, we can work with the state to provide incentives. There are many, many options out there. But the truth is, acknowledging that there are options and acknowledging that there is a plan to get there, but we're not there, is insufficient. What that says to me is, I know how to solve this problem, but I haven't.
It's now time for closing statements. Each candidate will get 3 minutes, starting with you, Tiffany.
So again, thank you all for coming tonight. And I've taken a lot of notes while I've been here. And I've been hearing over and over again, there are these problems, and there were solutions, but we didn't resolve the issues. The mayor says he knows how to resolve these problems, but something's happened, and the problems still exist. Is it a lack of leadership? Is it that the problems are being ignored? Is it that something else is being prioritized? When I look back and I look at the mayor's statements from his first 100 days in office 3.5 years ago, and then from his first few months in office 2 years ago, and I look at his list of goals, I realize that none of those goals have been achieved. And what I do hear are excuses. The Common Council held me up. It was a chicken law. It was, there's always something. What are we getting? Do we want something? Do we want progress? Do we want things to move forward? Or do we want a continuing litany of excuses? What I will tell you is, I don't have all the answers. I'll find them, and I'll work collaboratively with every single one of you as a community to figure out solutions to our problems and design and develop this vision that we have for Hudson in a way that it works for every single one of us. Not for the Old Boys Network, not for 50 people, for every single person in Hudson. We deserve it. We deserve action, and we deserve results. I hope you'll all come out on November 3rd and vote. Have a great night.
My opponent started her introductions with no, no, no. I'm ending with low, low, low. 3.5 years, 0% tax increase, less than 1.2. We have brought the city of Hudson home. You know it, your opponent knows it, and I know it. You've seen what's happened in 3.5 years here in the city of Hudson. With our revenue, with our taxes, with our services, with what we've been able to purchase, with a respectful open door policy for all. Building a better city. Government that respects is what my opponent has led her campaign on. Government with respect, and let me submit to you that since I've been in public office, and I was a county supervisor and the mayor for 2 terms, is it respectful for a legislative branch with a few individuals who are elected running on her ticket to be in a council meeting and tell people to sit down and shut up? Is it respectful for an alderman to tell his colleagues that they're stupid? Is it respectful for an alderman running on my opponent's ticket to ridicule me in the paper and say that I'm dumber than a box of rocks? Is it? Maybe you agree, maybe you don't agree. But is it respectful for an alderman to not stand for the pledge and salute the flag of the United States, where so many veterans have worked to protect that, even though it's his right to do so? I submit to you, if that's government with respect, I don't want any part of it. You shouldn't be voting for me. Government with respect is what you've gotten from me